I've got a good buddy of mine, Mr. Eric Bethune, quite possibly the biggest bow hunter in the world. I don't mean big as in biggest name or biggest celebrity. I mean big as in this dude could go bear hunting with a switch because he's massive. First time I ever met Eric, I literally thought it was a funny story because he walked into the convention and I said, "Good Lord, dude, what do? You go bear hunting with a switch?" And he said, "Well, I'm actually here to receive an award for my polar bear that I killed with my recurve." And so I thought, well, you do kill bears with switches. So me and Eric hit it off. He's an incredibly fun guy. Started bow hunting just 6 short years ago and has went on a killing spree. I'm talking new world record elk. I'm talking polar bears with recurves that receive awards at Pope and Young, muskox that receive awards at Pope and Young. The guy is an absolute monster when it comes to getting it done. He's a phenomenal hunter. He's here to share the most incredible story of a polar bear hunt that maybe you'll ever hear. An incredible story of a world record Thule elk and doing it all within just 6 years. He's also here to encourage you, to help you know that you can do it too, to help you know you're never too late. You didn't have to start when you were a kid. You can start right now. You can jump right in and not miss anything. Guys, it's a really, really fun episode. Eric is an incredibly nice guy. It's a fun episode. It's a funny episode. We learn a lot. We laugh a lot. We also hear some incredible stories. As always, this episode is brought to you by our good friends over at ScentLock. Guys, but I hope you enjoy it as much as I did.
Welcome to Bear Archery's Hunting 101 podcast, where hunters new and old come to learn and find inspiration from stories of hunts gone by. Everyone is welcome to enjoy the outdoor way of life, and there is no better time to start than right now. So let's head into the great outdoors with your host, Dylan Ray.
Guys, I am never going to tell you that you have to be 10% body fat or that you have to be able to run a marathon in order to enjoy hunting. You don't even have to be able to complete a CrossFit workout. However, if I want to be able to hunt for a long time and enjoy the great outdoors and continue to chase wild game, then I have to do some things to remain healthy. Why? Well, because I can't bow hunt when I'm 80, 85 if I don't take care of myself now. Guys, First Form makes some of the best supplements that you will ever find. I got so tired of overpaying for watered down, mediocre supplements just because they were branded for the outdoors. First Form is one of the biggest and best supplement companies in the world. The best news is they care about outdoorsmen and they care about hunters because they are outdoorsmen and they are hunters. So guys, I would highly encourage you to check out First Form. Not just for your professional athletes, not just for the guys who are constantly in the gym working out, not just for the guys who want to get as big and as fit as they possibly can, but for everyday guys who just want to be around to see their kids graduate, for everyday mom and dads who just want to be healthy and live a happy lifestyle and enjoy time with their kids, for the everyday bow hunter that just wants to ensure they do some things to stay healthy and be able to hunt longer. There are some products for everyday health that everybody should be taking, whether you're an athlete or not. So guys, click the link in the description of this episode to start shopping some of my favorite products from First Form. And guys, I would highly encourage you to start doing some things to ensure your future for bow hunting, to ensure that you're able to enjoy the sport that you love so much for a long time. Guys, I would love to help you out. If you have any questions about what I take or why I take it, shoot me an email, thehunting101podcast@gmail.com. I would love to give you some advice on what products would be a good fit for you and to help you reach your goals. So guys, definitely click the link in the description of this episode to start shopping some of my favorite everyday health products from First Form, some of my favorite proteins, vitamins, minerals, electrolytes, some of the favorite products that anybody and everybody should be taking in order to live a happier, healthier lifestyle. But guys, don't hesitate to reach out and ask me any kind of questions. I would love to help you and love to see you live your happiest, healthiest life. All right, Eric, finally we get to catch up, man. Been a while.
It's been a while.
Been a while since we've got to chat. The biggest bow hunter in all the world. I mean, biggest, like actual physical biggest.
No, I held that title maybe 2 years ago. I'm way sized down, man. And that's I can't like train heavy during season. I can't do it. It just doesn't work. Like trying to bench press and, draw a bow. It's, bull in a china shop kind of thing. Man, it's just, you're trying to do something that requires a lot of finesse when you're all, tense and tight and oil and water, man, doesn't really work out.
Yeah, no, I get that, but still, I'd like to see anybody step up and say, I'm bigger than this cat. I remember first time I ever saw you, I kind of ran my mouth a little bit. You walked into the Pope and Young convention, and I was like, good Lord, son. So what is it? You go bear hunting with a switch? And he said, well, I'm actually here. And he said it so kindly. Looks like a big bull, but he's actually just a nice guy. And he said, oh, I'm actually here to receive an award for killing a polar bear with my recurve. And I was like, oh, okay. So you do go bear hunt with a switch.
Spot on.
All right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So just to catch us up, because last year, basically you stepped into Pope and Young hot and heavy. Most dudes are like, they start getting their toes in the water, and you show up just swinging for the fences, got a new world record, got 2 awards. Good Lord, dude. So tell us about, let's start with the world record. So was it last year killed it or 2 years ago?
22. I booked it in 19, went out in 22, and, it was pretty much drawn up exactly the way we had it written up. And, the way it worked out was perfect. I mean, he's got a beat on these elk and, the way they move in and off the ranch he's hunting on. And the fact that they only limit his tag number to 1 is, it's a huge deal. So there's only 1 elk getting taken off that ranch per year. Corey Smith actually killed the biggest tule ever. And I think he got his maybe 80 yards from where I shot mine. And, his bull scored, was it 369? And it was just a mutant of an animal. But, that was, obviously a whirlwind. That was the first elk I ever had in front of me. So, as I'm looking at this thing, I'm regurgitating all the stuff that I've heard on YouTube, as far as like trying to judge these things and what I'm looking for. And, and really just trying to put it together. And when I asked Richard, I'm like, Richard, am I killing this thing or what? And he's like, you got to do it on your own. And at that point, it's like score really doesn't matter. The look of him was just, I was already shook. You've heard the story. I was a complete mess. And but it worked out. I'm sitting here looking at him now, and my taxidermist did an absolute bang up job on him. And it's, what do you say? It's a world record for a guy who's been bow hunting for, maybe 6 years. So it's, that's
6 years, man.
2022
Good
was
grief.
just, it was a pipe dream. It was the whole year was just, it was pipe dream kind of stuff. Like, everything got in front of me day one. It was just monstrous. And most guys that know me know if I go to shoot a mule deer and a mule deer shows up, that mule deer is getting shot. Like, I'm not the guy to the really scrutinize, like, I'm going to be successful and check, and success that's top of the list. Everything else kind of, mass, and, all this other stuff goes second to success. And, it worked out.
That's actually what I appreciated most about you, because you're at the convention. You received a new world record. You received 2 awards, muskox and polar bear, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So
and they got the
3
muskox
awards
written up as the 10th biggest
in one convention. And so you're like, well, this guy's a score guy. All he cares about score. But then you talk and you're like, no, man, I just like to kill stuff. Like, just so happens these were big ones, like that's just, that was really cool.
First animal, day one type stuff on all the big
crazy
stuff. And, the streak really started in 2020 when I went out to my buddy John Hedges' place in Arizona. And we got on, is that 2020? That's 2021. It's 2021. It was August before my goat hunt. We got on a coos deer in 3 hours, spot and stalk. The second I saw him in the spot, it's like he's in a really bad spot. It's just over a ridge, maybe a 60-yard shot. That one worked out perfectly. From there I went to the goat hunt. Obviously that goat hunt was not, that's not something you just do out of the back of the truck. That was a hunt, and, successful there, successful in the moose. And then I went to 2022 and, you know, everything kind of lined up there. But again, those are all the very first animal I had in front of me on all those hunts, and it all worked out. So definitely not chasing score, man. Just chasing the critter. I just want him on the wall. I want a good representative on the wall. And if it can be Pope and Young, that would be, you know, success in Pope and Young. That's the goal. And then everything after that's a plus.
So I've got a lot of questions here buzzing through my head. Before we get to the polar bear and the muskox, which the polar bear is just an insane story. It's also an insane piece of taxidermy work. But
it really is.
Before we get to that, 6 years of bow hunting. So were you a rifle hunter before that, or were you an adult onset hunter and you just started killing world records?
Well, you know, as a kid, I was always following dad around the woods. You know, grew up in very rural North Carolina. You know, my dad was a big hunter, big fisher, you know, fisherman. That's really all he grew up doing. You know, so, you know, I grew up looking at, you know, deer tracks and, you know, knowing what scrapes were and just, you know, not really being taught how to do it. Just, you know, just being exposed to it for so long as a young guy, you know, just it kind of gives it more of a, you know, a natural type feeling when you're out there looking at things, because it's just, you know, something you've been exposed to forever. When I was younger, we did some rifle hunting. I wanted to get into archery really bad. You know, I kind of stuck my toe in it in, you know, like late 90s, like when I was in the military out in Colorado Springs. Perfect place to do it. But at that time, I was getting into the bodybuilding, you know, and bodybuilding to me was more important than archery. So it was kind of, you know, something I put down to pick up something else. But, you know, once bodybuilding kind of ran its course, you know, hunting made more sense. You know, it was cheaper, didn't take as much time. You know, you're a bodybuilder 24/7. You know, you can hunt, you know, Saturday morning between, you know, sunrise and noon. You know, whereas bodybuilding, you're doing it constantly. So it was definitely something that was easier to do with, you know, a small son around. And that really got me back into hunting. The first season I had was 2017, I believe. And it was in the Fairfax County Park program. And it's just a deer management program they run here in Fairfax. And for me, it was great because I know absolutely nobody in the area with land. Get permission in Virginia is not the easiest. So, you know, having some, you know, some nice places to hunt. I mean, there's a lot of good deer behind these houses. People don't see it, but I mean, you look at what the Seek One guys are doing. You know, we don't have the quality here, but I mean, they're big deer. But that really kind of got me into it. And I'm not really a kind of person that can just kind of dabble in something, man. Like I have to dive absolutely to the bottom of it. So, you know, my first travel hunt was a Ontario black bear hunt, and that really kind of set the hook. After that, it was like, you know, what else can I do? You know, kind of, you know, to put some things together. I went back to my antelope spot in Colorado Springs and wound up getting antelope out there, and, you know, just started chasing critters around and, you know, checking boxes and putting hunts together. And, you know, after, you know, a couple of years of doing this, you know, I find myself, you know, 25 yards from a polar bear, and it's just kind of, you know, it just kind of snowballed into one of these things to where, you know, I'm doing these hunts and, you know, I'm getting excited about things and going and seeing places and, you know, having success. And it's like, you know, obviously I want to keep it going. And it kind of turned into what it turned into.
You think the polar bear hunt, you think he was like less aggressive because he was like, dang, this mug's as big as I am. Like, don't want to fight this guy. You know?
Oh, no. He was 10 out of 10, ready to go. The second he laid eyes on me, he had a target and he was coming.
That's what I don't want to get to that story yet, because that's an incredible story. But that to me is insane, dude. You don't hear somebody say, started bow hunting 6 years ago, and I've already killed a polar bear with my recurve. Like that's insane to me, dude. Like I don't even know.
That wouldn't do that.
Obviously, you're the type of dude that just goes all in.
That was a little bit much. And to be honest, if I could get on the plane right now and repeat that hunt in the exact same way, I wouldn't do it, because that was just
really,
it was a lot. It was too much, man. Well, if the dogs were different, you know, because the dogs are just not, you know, and again, we'll get into it more in depth, but the dogs they weren't as advertised. And that was the only beef with the hunt, you know, because every video I watched, all the dogs are absolute killers. You know, they've got these bears, you know, bayed. You know, one's nipping at its hindquarters while the other, you know, it's completely encircled. The dogs they had really couldn't cared less. It was bad. So, you know, two of the 8 dogs really saved the day. And barely. Really sticky. That was a sticky situation.
So how'd this snowball happen? Like, how did it? I mean, obviously, you probably didn't start with a recurve. You probably didn't start hunting muskox with a recurve. So how'd this process look for you? Adult onset bow hunter, which I love talking to, because I love, man. I hate the excuse of like, well, it's too late for me now. Like, you know, I wish I would have got into that when I was a kid. It's not too late. You know, here sits a gentleman that started 6 years ago and he's killing world records. So, how'd that process look, man? What kind of barriers do you have to overcome? Like, how'd you get into it?
I mean, you know, I think you know, hunting is kind of personal. It's like a personal sport, kind of like bodybuilding.
Oh yeah.
Your success is based directly on how much you put into it, or at least that's how I see it. So for somebody like me coming into bow hunting and not really knowing what I was doing, to be completely honest, you know, I needed a lot of help. So, I don't know who I was talking to, but I got on the bow site, and, you know, I say this on every single podcast I'm on, like, bow site is ground zero for the best bow hunting information on the internet. There's just absolute killers on that site. They're all knowledgeable. They're all, you know, I mean, you got experts in certain areas that just, they've been, you know, guys have been chasing elk in, you know, Colorado for 30 years. I mean, who else better to talk to? You know, not some, you know, Facebook guy from Michigan, you know, that's, you know, watched 8 YouTube videos, and it's the place to go. So I think that with my competitive nature kind of it opened the door enough to where I could, you know, have access to the information I needed to kind of be successful. And, you know, you know, combined with my competitive nature, it's like, you know, I kind of want to do the next thing and the next thing. And that's just how it kind of evolved. You know, it's, you know, I kind of started with the low hanging fruit, like, you know, black bear and antelope. Those are obviously cost effective. There's a million of them. There's, you know, tons of places to do it, you know, successfully and affordably. And then after that, I kind of stepped it up. I think my next bigger hunt after that was mountain lion. The mountain lion hunt. And that was one of the ones where I felt like I could be successful with a recurve. And my first exposure to that was at black bear camp at Stick Flingers in 18. So, you know, it was a year or so after I'd started. And it was just another kind of, you know, a way to make something that's difficult even more difficult and more challenging. And to me, that's, you know, that's right up my alley. Obviously, it was something that, you know, for me, it was a big learning curve on shooting a bow anyway. At 280 pounds, you know, you walk in, everybody's like, "Oh, that guy's got 100-pound draw length or draw weight." You know, it's like maybe so, but I have the muscle finesse of a linebacker. You know, trying to be, you know, a ballet dancer. It just didn't work out right. So there was a lot of things that I had to do and change to be able to get myself to where I could, you know, shoot a bow correctly at, you know, a bigger size. And even more so with a recurve, you know, because those muscles in the back are just, they're different. You know, I feel, you know, you shoot a lot of recurve. It's just a different, you know, same but different. And so, you know, I really had to transition out of that to get into the recurve stuff. But God, the recurve stuff just makes it, you know, so much more difficult, and getting, you know, that close to animals, and, you know, but again, I've been in situations where they're mostly predators, or they're close up, they're baited. So, you know, that kind of situation, but chasing these whitetails up close is tough, super tough.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun.
So let's unpack that just a little bit, because a lot of guys, you know, like you said, they think they're big and bad. But it's a complete different game when you go to shoot a bow. So I think there's two sides to this, because I have successfully gotten national champion strongman Joey Zatmary into hunting, got him his first buck. I mean, the dude picks up the earth, you know, deadlifts 750, squats,
sure,
you know, 700,
for sure.
like just an unreal strength. And so, yeah, while he does draw the bow back easy, it's a finesse kind of drawing a weight. You know, it's not slamming weights around. Yep. However, I do think that people that train and lift weights also have muscle-mind connection. So it's easier for them to learn, you know, it's easier for them to feel your back muscles compressing to draw your, you know what I mean? Because they're used to paying attention.
Oh, I know 100%
what you mean.
Moving.
Yeah.
Right. And my mind muscle connection with my back is exceptional because I was able to really develop my back. And it's because I'm able to, tell my brain where specifically to fire during a contraction to completely develop the muscle. So, when I'm drawing a bow back, I can absolutely feel where things need to be and, how things need to go. And, once I get enough reps in, things get locked in. But again, you can't do this consistently when you're doing this with, 300 pounds. It basically drowns it out. You know what I mean? It's like, this is the symphony and, this is death metal and, it's going to, one blares out the other one all day long. And,
that's a good way to put it.
That's really all I can, that's really the only way I can think about, they're both similar, but really different. And, and it's just, it makes it different. But, so I had to transition out of that to get into the, to get in the bow hunt and even transition more to get into the recurve stuff. Again, it's something I really want to be successful at. But again, the success, you're rebooking a lot of hunts with the trad gear. And, that's just something I'm not in a spot financially where I can do. So, when I make a decision to take a recurve on a hunt, it's because I'm 100% confident that, I could make it happen with that weapon. And even still, I'd take a compound, like the brown bear hunt. I went into that hunt shooting, just never shot as confidently. And that hunt, went right down the middle first night. But, the graduation to the compound, all the recurve stuff, it's a completely different game. And the allure for somebody with a competitive nature, it's hard to say no to.
Guys, if you have been around archery much at all, then you've probably heard the name Lancaster. And for good reason. Lancaster Archery is well known worldwide, and they have an incredible reputation worldwide. Why? Because they're archery experts on all things archery, from bow hunting to 3D shooting, from recurves to compounds. If it's archery, they not only sell the products, but they know the products. Guys, Lancaster is your one-stop shop for all things bear archery, every compound, recurve, all the equipment. But outside of bear, they have everything you need, from arrows and broadheads to bow building equipment, everything. Guys, Lancaster Archery is a name that you can absolutely trust. They put out some of the best information that you can find just about anywhere. So I would highly encourage you to not only shop at lancasterarchery.com because you can trust in the products you're buying, because they know about the products that you're buying, but also I would highly encourage you to check out all of their resources, not only on their website, but on their YouTube channel, because they are a wealth of knowledge on all things archery. So guys, check out Lancaster Archery. They're your one-stop shop, not only for all of the equipment that you could ever possibly need that's archery related, but also all of the information that you would ever need that is archery related. LancasterArchery.com. Go check them out. So what do you say to the guy? First, they're switching to a recurve. What are some of the easiest hunts you found? And easy is never a word to use when talking about hunting, but what are some of the best hunts you found to start using a recurve for?
Black bear. Perfect. Go to stick flingers and kill a black bear. They're 12 yards away. They're going to give you a broadside shot. It's the baits are in good locations, and there's tons of animals. So, black bear is a great start. Really any of the predators, where you can get them in a spot and get them still. That was kind of my thinking. As far as being easy, that's one of those things I kind of, my cat hunt took, I think that was over in 6 hours. So it's just my hunt, how I grade my hunts is a little bit different because I've gotten lucky in so many spots. So they've all been, relatively on the easy side, so to speak. But the practice going into those things is really what is the hard part for me, because taking the recurve, like I'm down here in the basement, or out in the backyard or wherever, every night, it's one of those things, like if I don't do it every day, it's easy for me to forget, even though things are, I just feel like I have to be right there on it. So it's just, I have to practice it every single day. So that's really the biggest thing going into those recurve hunts is just, going out, for me anyway, going out with the confidence to know that, once I draw that bow back, that arrow's going to go where I want it to go. And, the cat hunt for me, I guess my best takeaway from that hunt is, again, this was one of my very first hunts, right? We get this cat squared away. He's 12 yards up, and the first shot on him, considering the angle he was, perfect shot. And, the outfitter starts yelling at me, shoot him again. I'm thinking I did something wrong, and I basically just rifle one up, from the hip as quick as possible. And it, nailed him perfect again. I didn't think about it at the time. Because the guy's yelling at me. The dogs are blaring up. It's just not a situation I'm used to. He's yelling at me again to shoot him again. So I knock another one. And this time he had turned toward me, so I'm looking at the front of a cat, you got the chest. That's maybe a cantaloupe. Rifled another one, right down the middle. And, after the fact, I'm looking back, I'm like, you know what? All that practice actually helped, because when I was, basically, shotgunning those things up there at him, they were all right where they needed to be. Turns out he just didn't want the cat to hit the ground when any wind left in him. He didn't want to go in on the dogs. So he probably should have told me about that to, begin with, because I thought I was doing something wrong or shooting him in a bad spot. But, after the fact, looking back, it's like, holy shit, like I put 3 like right down the middle, right where it's supposed to be. And granted, it's 12 yards, but, for a guy who's kind of new to the woods, I kind of want to pat myself on the back a little bit after that. So, just little things like that in those hunts, or, kind of make me think, okay, well, maybe, that went well, maybe the muskox could work out, because they're not really, I'm not in a tree stand waiting for one to come by with my fingers crossed type thing. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I got into it with the predators. My last hunt with it was the brown bear. Yeah. It's a brown bear. And, it's a lot of fun though. It makes everything, orders of magnitude harder than with the compound.
Now you just said something that I've actually thought about and considered a lot. When it comes to whitetail hunting and you're sitting in a tree stand, really when it comes to all hunting, you can do everything right and the animal just doesn't cooperate. Like, you can do everything picture perfect, exactly how you're supposed to, and the animal just doesn't cooperate, which is a sucky thing about this sport. Like, some of the best hunters can go out and do everything right, and it doesn't happen. So what do you say to the guy who hasn't, it hadn't come easy? They're trying and they're doing everything right, but it's just not working. And I think about, bodybuilding. If you put in the work, there's no luck to that. There's no luck to getting big and strong.
There's a lot of variables in that equation as well. I mean, I see guys showing up to the gym religiously, but they're not eating correctly. You know what I mean? So, this guy might be getting up and, sitting in the right spots, but, he might be hunting the bad wind, so there might be a variable in the equation that needs to be tweaked instead of, maybe that's the issue. But I mean, honestly, just get out there and go.
Yeah.
I mean, I went on all these hunts, expecting to just wanting to be successful, period. Not chasing any numbers, any, just a good representative animal. And it just really just stars kind of aligned for me. But you got to go, you got to be out there. If you're not out there, you can't get it done. So that's just, and same thing with bodybuilding. If you're not doing the work and you're not putting 1 foot forward every single day, the progress is never going to happen. It's the same thing going to the woods. I mean, you got to make it happen.
Right. All right. Let's get into it. The polar bear, the most incredible story, which I actually saw this bear not knowing it, because this bear, if I'm remembering correctly, this bear went on tour with the Kenai guys, right?
Yeah. So they took him around to some of the sheep shows, and
yes. Mm-hmm.
They didn't dress him up, specifically to my, to, what my bear looked like, because I guess they wanted just to buy the box, out of the box polar bear. But once they got him back and they're like, do you want the scars added? And, obviously I said yes. And they put the scars on him. It was just incredible. Yeah. And this thing, I mean, you can see him.
Oh my God.
Every time you walk down here, it's a polar bear. It's just never, and he's on wheels too, so you can roll this thing around. He's impressive dead on from the back. It's just, he's like a freight train, and it's just.
So if you're listening to this and you don't know the history behind this, you can't bring back polar bears. So Kenai is a company. Do you still call them a taxidermist? Kanadi.
Yeah, Kanadi. Well, they do a lot of they do a ton of taxidermy, but they also do a lot of replica stuff.
Yes.
Stuff that you can't import, or stuff that you could import, but at a ridiculous price. So the replica's a better way to go if you lost something, I guess. But Yeah, the work they did on the polar bear was perfect. It looks perfect. Yep.
So that's why they're asking. I just wanted to go. That's why they're saying you want the scars added, because it's a replica of his bear. It's not the actual bear.
Oh yeah,
Can't
yeah.
bring the bear
Yeah.
back. So, so I saw this bear, and anytime you see polar bear taxidermy, like, it doesn't have to be good taxidermy. It's like what it's like you said. It's just like, holy crap, dude, that's a polar bear.
It's a
Like,
bear. Yeah.
It's a freaking polar bear. Now you have it in your house.
That's a bear.
Yeah. Good grief. Is it your spirit animal has to be a polar bear? Like, it's gotta be.
Either that. I mean, honestly, man, the brown was a little more intimidating. Like, it just like a physical appearance.
Really?
Because, the polar bear kind of like a couch potato. I mean, he was a massive couch potato, but a couch potato nonetheless. The brown bear just looked like a silverback. He was just stacked. When he stood there with his arms bowed, you could see everything going on. And I shot him at 5 yards, man. You could hear this thing.
Oh my gosh.
You could hear the whole thing. And I got Harold sitting there. We had one stick his face in the blind, and I would have shot him, 5 steps before that happened. And Harold's over there cool as a cucumber. But and I was ready to blast him. I'd been in the blind for a couple hours, and he shows me. The second he comes in, I got tension on the string, and Harold had to talk me off the ledge on that one. But I was ready to go. I mean, it's like there's a brown bear, and it's a brown bear. And he's like, no, you got to wait. He's like, that other big one's gonna come in. He's like, he's much bigger, and I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure? Like, he's right here. Like, hunt. This is it. I can do this. He's like, I'm sure. When the other one came in, there was no doubt. There was absolutely no doubt. I mean, his hide was better. He was just blockier.
It was like comparing,
it was just, he had that blonde,
comparing Eric to Dylan is what it was like. That's what it was like.
Yeah, in so many words. But when he comes in, it was just like, holy moly. Like, that's a brown bear. And, he comes in and he lays looking at the blind, and of course the whole time I'm just waiting for that, opportunity. And, I'm figuring for sure when he gets up, he's going to do the thing where he kind of stands up and looks around and takes that lazy turn and, moseys off. Dude, he stood up and like took a couple steps back, made a quick flip and just left. Crazy. Those things are definitely not black bears. They do not hunt like black bears at all. Yeah. So they're a little smarter.
The polar bear hunt. What, first off, like, what made you want to hunt polar bear? Like, what was it that said, yeah, it's polar bear for me?
Well, I mean, first off, it's, obviously polar bears. And it's, it's one of these things that was, when I was, first getting into stuff, when I was, shopping these hunts early, I'm doing all the rounds, I'm, checking all the hunts and prices. And, I take one look at polar bears and immediately know I'll never do this. This is, they're talking about 40 grand just to go up there and, trophy fees and $8 grand worth of flights, and hotel rooms are $400 or $500 every night. And, stuff like that. So immediately I look at polar bears for 2 seconds. It's like, that's never going to happen. Cut to a couple years later, a buddy tags me in a post on Facebook for a last minute cancellation. This was 2022. And it was a leftover hunt from 2020. And of course it was, what happened in 2020. This Hungarian guy had the hunt booked, basically paid for all of it, left a little bit on the table. He ran an outfitting business in Hungary and was so stacked up, once the COVID rules lifted for him, he couldn't make it out for his hunt. So I wound up getting it for not cheap by any means, but it was in a price range to where, I could pull the trigger on it, get it done, and have that memory forever. And I did it. And it was as by the book a polar bear hunt as you could have had flight wise and travel wise. It was 7 days door to door, no flights got missed. So that was kind of not usual, but that's kind of how the hunt got on the radar to begin with. I actually missed the first one. The guy called me up, I got into the, it was that the hunt he tagged me in. I called the guy and it was like 10 o'clock at night. I was just getting the kid home and I was like, it was a big decision. I wasn't going to call the guy and just like done, sold. I had a few questions. But someone was like, look, I'm not a tire kicker. I'm extremely interested in this hunt. I was like, just let me get a good night's sleep. I'll call you in the morning. We'll talk details. If everything sounds good, I'll give you some cash going. We'll start the process. He's like, okay, no problem. Well, like 4 o'clock in the morning, I got a text from him. He's like, I sold the hunt. It's like, okay, well, I missed it. Go on the muskox hunt, come back. The guy calls me up with another cancellation hunt. And that's the Hungarian guy that couldn't make it out. So that's the one I actually wound up picking up. It actually wound up being slightly more expensive, but at a lower latitude. So it was not as cold, less travel, because those little, puddle jumpers up there above, Ottawa and stuff, when you start getting those Canadian North flights, it's real spotty, man. They're always delayed. They're cargo planes. It's, so lower was better in my mind, less logistics to worry about. I think when I booked the hunt, man, I was 3 weeks out. So it was a super quick turnaround.
Lord.
And, yeah. But it was one of those things. It's like, look, I got a huge opportunity to do something I would never be able to do otherwise. And it's like, this is the situation. So do I do it? If I do, it's got to be in 3 weeks. So, we jumped on it, and everything goes as planned, man. We get up to Hall Beach. I meet the outfitter. We get checked in, I shake some gear out, that night in the hotel, get everything squared away, meet the dudes the next morning. And he told me before we got there, he's like, don't pet the dogs. He's like, Americans like the dogs. Like, these dogs are not, they're farm animals. You know what I mean? They're working, they're implements, they're farm tools. They're not, you're not cuddling with these things. So I'm thinking, perfect. That's exactly how I want these dogs to be, vicious. But they didn't turn out to be. We had 8 of them. Load them up in the Kamatuck, and we get on this thing. Nah.
Just rub it up against your legs.
There were 2 that yeah, I mean, there were 2 there that just, acted like they woke up on the wrong side of the bed, but not, they weren't Cujo like I was expecting. But, so we wake up morning off, they do some grocery shopping, we get tags and stuff squared away. And then we get on the Kamatuck, and man, take a helmet. That Kamatuck ride was ferocious. I got 3 quick clips of it, and those 3 quick clips probably took about 45 takes, because every time I'd get something done, it would just flop it out of my hand. So there's 11 hours of just literally getting your ass kicked, and there's really no way around it. Once we get out there, we're in a place called the Gulf of Boothia. We're camping out on the ocean, in an area that's just full of seals. And, we spotted some tracks getting out there when we first got to camp, and, big dinner plate sized tracks. I mean, clearly a big animal. And they're like, this is a 9.5 foot bear, and he's got to be close because, these tracks are fresh. It was clear as a whistle that day. Next morning we wake up and it's cloudy, nothing crazy, no snow coming down. We did have a snowstorm coming that morning, but they said it was whiteout conditions. And they couldn't see the tracks really well. So basically it looked like that for 3 days. We never got out. We just sat in the tent, played on the phone, talked to the guides a little bit. They spoke mainly in the native language. I only talked to one of the guys who was, a younger fella, but he, I did mostly communicate with him. We did get out that first day, before a storm came in, just got up on a knoll and, glassed around a little bit and immediately spotted 3, a mom and cubs. They stick out like a sore thumb. They're not white. They're very, very yellow. And, at the time, when it first happened, I didn't realize how yellow they were until I went to Canada and actually saw the hide mounted. This was after I'd got my replica back. And it was like, this thing is, I mean, you can kind of see on his legs, he's kind of orange or yellow at the bottom and whitish at the top. They should have started at the top with the yellowish, or the color of his, the color of his feet should be on his face. And then that color should fade down into a much brighter yellow or orangish. This is coming from a colorblind guy, by the way, so take that with a grain of salt. But but yeah, you can spot them. You can spot them super easy. There's nothing to it. They're very yellowish. They're not white, so they stick out. So we go back to the tent the day. Next thing you know, we're snowed in. Really doing nothing, eating Arctic char fresh out of the ocean. So it's not not a bad deal. But when we did finally get out, we were out for maybe 3 hours. And we had spotted, what we thought was the mom and cub tracks again, a couple 8-foot bear tracks, and then the one big one. And as soon as we spot him, like, it's perfect. This is the guy we're looking for. And he was basically walking parallel with some pack ice and these little humps of little islands, because we're on the ocean. And the pack ice basically starts, I guess, where it's far enough away from the islands to where, the movement of the ocean creates enough, force where it can buckle the ice, and the ice buckles up on itself. He's walking parallel between that. We get close enough to him to let the dogs go and stuff. So we saddle up, get on the sled, take off. We get about 60 yards away, and he cuts the front 2 dogs go. Bears paid no attention to us whatsoever. No pause, no breaking gait. Like he's just, hammering along. He recognizes the dogs when they get maybe 30 yards away. And when he does, he just kind of turns around and notices them, just kind of, instead of walking straight, he just kind of veers over to the pack ice. It's the last place we want him to go because we can't follow him. Well, when he gets to that pack ice, he kind of finds just a buckle of ice or just, a bulge of ice. And he does that defensive thing where they lay down flat. It's like, okay, we're here's the opportunity. At that point, he cuts the other dogs loose, and the other dogs just scatter. They pay no attention to the bear whatsoever. The dogs they did a really good job this way because they actually went into the pack ice and stopped them. So, basically the bear is into the pack ice. The dogs are further into the pack ice, but he had stopped and he's looking into the dogs. So I'm like, okay, well, this is perfect. Now I need to sneak around on this thing, get around where he's paying attention to the dogs, get a shot on him. So I'm going in, got everything knocked. I got my guide behind me and I'm thinking he's, got the video tab selected. Anyhow, he wound up taking a picture. Super good picture, but no video. Anyway, I'm about to draw on this thing. He's laying down. I'm waiting for him to stand up. And when he turns around, he finally looks at us for the first time. The second he gets us in frame, he charges immediately. There's no hesitation. He comes right at us. He had a target and he was coming. I peel around the guide, expecting gunshots to go off, And, I get about 3/4 of the way behind me. He grabs me by the hood. He's like, come back. I can only assume that once the bear charged, the dogs chased the bear. And to the bear, the dogs were more of a threat than we were. So he took up the defensive position again. But anyhow, when he grabbed me and spun me back around, I went, back and picked all my gear up because that just went flying. And I knocked my arrow and stuff. And I ran up to what I thought was a close enough range, and ranged him at 25 and sent one in him. And I thought it was a repeat of the muskox shot. It was low and forward and it looked like it hit him in his arm. When actually it did hit his arm, but it got through his meat and went up into his rib cage and got the top of his heart and the bottom of his lungs. At the time, again, I thought it was a bad shot. I'm knocking an arrow and I'm trying to run around because I'm going to start launching, 50-yard bombs at a running polar bear because he's running where I can't get him. He's been cut at this point, at this point, he's been tagged, because he's been hit. And he gets like 40 yards away and he stops and he sits down. He spins around like he's going to sniff himself like a dog and just falls over on his back with his feet up, stone dead. Unbelievable.
Oh my gosh.
For an animal that size to go that quick. And when I look back at the guide, he didn't have his rifle in his chest. This guy I don't know what happened, but he left it on the sled. So I had no rifle backup. So if those dogs hadn't have got that bear's attention, it would have just been one swipe, two swipes. And
oh my gosh,
the family would have been getting phone calls. But after that was just, when you're sitting there and that's just happened. I mean, the adrenaline is almost.
How do you even shoot? How do you even compose yourself to make a shot after a grizzly bear was just staring down coming at you?
When you're locked in, man, it's just, I don't know. It was just, you're in the moment.
Dude, I'd have peed everywhere, bro. I'd have just peed everywhere.
I don't know. I guess I just had my head in that moment. And I thought I had some backups. I at least had that confidence that if something did happen, if I had a pause button, I could have paused it and turned around and looked. When I was standing there with the recurve in my hand, I would have expected him to be back there like this, which apparently never happened. But it worked out like it worked out, and
good
it
Lord.
happened. But it was the adrenaline from that didn't wear off for days, and the effects of it were just I couldn't sleep, I couldn't think right, I was not hungry, because it's just. That's just
insane.
Something you're never gonna. I'm never gonna feel the same way I felt as you feel when you have a polar bear charging you. There's nothing that's ever gonna make you feel that way. Nothing.
Now, when he started charging, how close did he get to you? I mean, are we talking a 40-yard charge? Was he 40 yards away, or was he 100 yards away?
He was 30. He was 30 yards away.
God.
So I was to the point where you can see in the picture. I've got the bow up. And he's laying down and he's looking toward the dogs. And I was just basically waiting for him to stand up, or give me at least a better shot because I didn't want to shoot him laying down. But when he swung his head around and spotted us, literally, man, the second he saw us, he was coming toward us. And the second I saw him stand up and start lunging is when I peeled away. And I guess the bears, immediately spun back around when the dogs got on him. So it got nuts. It got nuts quick. And it was it was over as fast as it started, because I go from thinking I put a bad hit on a bear, the hunt's over, like a hunt that I probably shouldn't have spent the money on is now over, because I made a bad shot, and then he dies. So you go from, oh my God, I ruined it, to holy shit, I just killed a polar bear with a recurve. And it took a couple of days to shake that off, man. It's just.
That's unreal, man.
It's one of those things. I don't know.
Unreal.
It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. Yeah.
So how cold
and that was
are we
definitely
talking? How cold is this on this hunt?
It was, this hunt was very mild, man. I mean, we're talking, I think when I shot him, it was 25 degrees.
Oh,
so,
okay.
I had a couple base layers on. I think I had those Baffin boots. I had my feet. I keep cold feet. So I run those Baffin boots, the same ones I had on the muskox hunt. I just had a couple base layers on, the Kuiu zip off base layers, the super down set, and I wore my Yukon rain gear set over it. Because that kind of locked everything in windproof wise, and I didn't have to worry about any, snow and stuff kicking up off the snowmobiles and, get my clothes wet. So it was just, a really a perfect combination for that hunt. Worked out perfectly.
So how cold was the muskox hunt?
-40. And that was just brutal. I mean, you take your fingers out of your gloves and it's just needles. And these guys are chipping holes in the ice and washing their hands off after they skin this thing. No problem. They got big hands.
And what's funny is I know a lot of guys who have killed muskox. I know a lot of guys who've killed polar bears. But I've never got to really ask the questions. How do you even go about staying warm in -40 degrees with wind blowing, snow plowing through? I mean, how do you even begin to stay warm in that?
Big clothes. It was so I started off everything obviously with several base layers, and then my buddy Jake Henson
pairs of base layers.
Yeah. So he's there's no telling how many Arctic critters have been killed in this Trans-Alaskan suit that he let me borrow. But this thing probably weighs 12 pounds. It's an old Cabela suit, it's a one-piece onesie thing. But before the muskox hunt was initially booked, because I booked it in 2018 for 2020, and it got canceled 3 days before I was supposed to leave because of COVID. And I was out there in March trying to practice in this thing because it's big. I mean, it's a heavy suit. I'm trying to get a feel for what it's going to be like, that type thing. And it was 30 degrees out, and that doesn't work. I mean, it has to be zero to even start to thinking about wearing that suit because it's too hot. I mean, I get 5 shots in there, next thing you know, the front's unzipped and I'm out there like Fat Elvis, ripping arrows in the driveway. And it's a hot suit. But even on top of that, you go with the Alaskan, that Canadian down stuff, you go over the top of it with that. And it was just the Baffin boots and beaver fur hat. One of my Cree Nation friends in Canada had her family make me like a legit moose leather beaver fur hat and some mittens. And it is the single best piece of gear that I own, hands down. I can wear a Stratus set into the 20s with that piece of gear. And if it gets too cold, I just put the hat on. It makes everything better. No heat gets lost. I'm completely perfect. I'm not sitting there and that massive Fanatic set where I'm all bulked up and puffy. It's hands down the best piece of gear I own. But that hunt was, and you wouldn't think mittens, just regular old beaver fur mittens would be so protective against -40, but they were they're essential in that situation. I couldn't imagine being on one of those Arctic hunts and not having fur gear. The guys on the polar bear hunt had dog fur boots, and I thought that was nuts. Because I see it, and
puppy.
I'm like, that's super interesting. I was like,
puppy.
Dog. Yes.
What?
And I seen him like, that fur is cool, man. I was like, wolf. I was like, is that a wolf or something? Where'd you guys get it? He's, oh no, it's a dog. I'm like, was like, okay. I was like, was he old or was he sick? You know, I was like, this is a story. He's like, I just needed some boots. It's like, I mean, you know, when you're in Hall Beach, Nunavut, and you need boots, you're not running the Target. You know what I mean?
He's like,
You
bro, is
make
that Wolf?
boots,
He's like,
I guess.
he's like, nah, bro, that's Brittany
like,
Spaniel, dog.
That's dog, man. But
Oh,
hey,
that's my
it.
wife's poodle, bro. Oh my gosh.
No, the gnarliest, man, are the polar bear pants are the coolest though. When you see the guy show up with the polar bear pants on, those are the best.
You
those
know he's there to kill stuff. Wear those like that dude. That dude's there to kill stuff. Like if you got polar bear pants on, dude, you're just a murderer.
You should see the stuff that these guys have got in their phones that their cousins have just killed because, you know, they wanted to go shoot a musk ox or a polar bear, or just, you know, I'll send you the picture. And this guy's cousin shot one, and he's a 6'1" dude. He's laying down next to the hide on this thing, and the hide looks like you could wrap him up like a tamale in it, you know, 3 or 4 times. It is just, I'll send you the picture when we get offline, but it is one of the most obscene things I've ever seen.
Wow. And
this is just one they said they got too close to town and they wanted to get rid of it, you know? So who knows the stuff that's just the stories they've got that they just, you know, kind of ho-hum.
You know that type of guy, he's got polar bear pants. That guy, he's definitely got polar bear pants.
I hope so.
For sure. Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely.
Guys, if you run any kind of supplement for your deer, which you absolutely should, there are things that deer need. And I have found that when I run supplements for my deer, it keeps them on my property so they don't go wandering off onto other properties looking for that thing that they're needing. And so I have just dove fully into running minerals and protein for my deer all year long. Buck Bourbon does supplements and attractants really, really well. Whether you're looking for a long-range attractant like the 110 proof, or whether you're looking for a feed that you can run all year long in a feeder, or even just on the ground in their barrel proof, Buck Bourbon has what you need. I can tell you story after story of going onto a new 500-acre piece, dumping out some long-range attractant, and deer just coming into it. Guys, it will make a difference in the way that you see your deer come in. So, guys, I would highly encourage you to check out Buck Bourbon. You can use code HUNTING101 in all caps to get 15% off. But I would just encourage you, no matter what, to start running some sort of supplement for your deer. It'll have a happier, healthy herd. You'll keep them on your property more, and you can better manage those deer. Guys, go check out Buck Bourbon. So, what's been the most difficult, most challenging, nothing happened right hunt that you've been on?
That's, you know, honestly, man, I've been so fortunate on these hunts. I don't have a story. It's, all my hunts have been, I mean, I've had some that weren't successful. And that was not because of, you know, it's just animals being animals. You know, my first mountain goat hunt didn't go as planned. I could have shot a 10-inch billy any day from the road, you know, with a rifle. But it's like, you know, I want to do this with a bow. Like I'd rather leave him here than look at him and know he had a bullet hole in him. It's nothing against rifle guys. I just, you know, it's not how I want to do it. And so, you know, we ate the tag sandwich on that one. My first bear hunt didn't go right. And that was just, you know, again, not really one of these things where it's a bad outfitter or, you know, just things didn't work out. So I've been really fortunate with that one. You know, I've heard a lot of horror stories, but, you know, I've got some hunts coming up this year. Maybe I'll have some horror stories at the end of 24. But so far, man, everywhere I've been has been really good. You know, I've had a couple situations I didn't care for, you know, but I mean, considering, you know, the few hunts I've been on, the few little, you know, kind of gripes I've got are really inconsequential. I've had really good experiences because, you know, again, I go to bow sight and I do the research. And when I spend money with these people, it's because I've got, you know, 30 of the best bow hunters in the world saying these dudes are the place to go. You know, so it's not like I'm drawing names out of a hat and going to, you know, Billy Bob's Blacktail shop, you know, in who knows what Oregon. You know, I'm going to, you know, places with reputable, you know, people who know what they're doing. And, you know, sometimes if it costs more, it costs more. But, you know, I figure, you know, buy once, cry once, you know, just do it. Yeah. And, you know, try to be as successful as you can. So, but yeah.
So what do you say to the guy who, you know, they buy into that lie? Because that's exactly what it is. It's a lie. of, man, I really wish I would have started when I was young. I really wish I would have got into this when I was young. It's not too late. Just start. Like, what do you say to that guy? Like, yes, there are going to be barriers, but look how worth it is. Like, what do you say to that guy to really help him get over that hump of not wanting to dive in this late in life?
I mean, it's just, you just pull the trigger, just let it rip. You know what I mean? And I get it, man. It's intimidating because, starting at anything from a ground level, especially later in life, it's a lot. And, you walk into the archery shop and there's a million things on the wall, and it's, there's so much to look at, and I can get how it can be intimidating. But just, the way I kind of deal with that kind of stuff is over researching. So, anytime I go into a situation I'm wary of, or I'm unsure of, I kind of shore that up by doing as much research as I can. Obviously, that only gets you so far. I mean, you're going to have to get to a point where the rubber needs to meet the road, and some of that research is going to have to be put in like practical application. You know what I mean? So there's going to be a lot of trial and error. There was for me. But I'm not a guy that wants to, if it's not broke, I'm not going to fix it type things. Or in the same arrows I shoot, I don't do a lot of craziness to my bows. I stop, I don't build a lot of arrows. I keep everything really, really simple. And I do that because I just don't want to complicate it. I mean, hunting, getting to A to B on a lot of these hunts is super complicated. I don't want to worry about, a lot of minute things that really, to me, just didn't make a lot of difference. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Like, it's easy to get lost in the wave of information that's out there. But it's just, you just got to pull the ripcord, man, and just do it. To me, I had a drive to do it. And I think if you've got a drive to do it, you really don't need that kind of pep rally talk, like, just go buy the bow, man. Like, if somebody's wanting to get into hunting, they're going to get into hunting. You know what I mean? They're going to do it, and they're going to be successful, whether that's, going to the woods and seeing animals or going to the woods and killing animals. To me, it's, how that person wants to rate their success. That's completely up to them. But, it's, if you've got the drive to do it, I think you will do it. And, because there's tons of information out there, and it is accessible, and you can find it. And it's not as diluted as bodybuilding stuff. That stuff is all genie in a bottle and snake oil. To whereas, you can actually talk to some people that have actual bow hunting experience and, give you good stuff because they're not motivated by, whatever else might motivate somebody to lie to you in the bodybuilding industry, supplements or whatever the hell. But, really just get on the computer, do some research, and get to it, man. Go at it. Start shooting some arrows.
Yeah. So one question that I've got for you, and this is off topic, and but a lot of guys, time is an issue, money is an issue, resources are an issue, family time is an issue. How do you prioritize hunting over all that? Like, and not over that. I'm not saying you prioritize hunting over your wife or kids or job, but how do you make time? And okay, here's a better question. How do you let mama let you spend that much money to go on a hunt? Like, that's what I got to figure out.
Well, she knows how I am. And like, once I get my mind around something, it's going to happen. Like, there is no,
so it's either you let me do it, or I'm going to bug you till you let me do it.
There's no if. Like, once I'm on something, like, I'm on it. Like, that's just, I mean, I kind of ripped the Marvel character off, the Juggernaut, on my Instagram handle, because that's kind of how I see my mentality, man. Like, once I get a little momentum, there's nothing that's going to stop me, man. Like, I have to do it, and I just get going. And fortunately, I'm in a spot to where there's a lot of overtime hanging off the walls, and that's really the only way I can afford to do this, because when I'm looking at hunts, it's like, okay, well, that's 13 overtime shifts. You know what I mean? So let me sign up for all those overtime shifts. And of course, it's an absolute ton of work. But again, she knows it's an itch I got to scratch. And fortunately enough, every time I've gone out to do it, I've been successful. And, I think a lot of that benefits my son as well, because he sees me get a goal in mind and do whatever it takes to execute and make that goal become, a reality. So, he sees me lugging rocks around in a sled, or, shooting in the backyard, or, watching the videos, or studying shot placement, or, he sees me doing the work to, achieve a goal, whether he wants to apply that to hunting or, a business environment. I think that him seeing me kind of be motivated and goal oriented, is going to help him in the long run too. So, kind of got that going for me. But as far as that goes, I just, she understands me. I'm in a position at work where I can do it. And, I feel like my son learns from it. So, and plus on the back end, man, we eat nothing but organic, lean meat that I've killed, and we had, elk tomahawks for Thanksgiving. It's incredible. So, when you kind of get, those benefits to it, as far as, the son seeing you do good stuff, you got good meat. I'm satisfied. I'm not driving her crazy around the house doing other stuff because, I'm not scratching the itch I want to scratch. I got a lot of leeway. So I'm fortunate in that aspect as well.
So that's something, man, that I just think, and we're going back to that idea of like, well, I want to do it, but I just, I don't. That mentality of this is what I want, I'm going to work my tail off until I get it. It's been lost. Kids don't have it. Adults don't have it. Everybody wants it handed to them on a silver platter. Nobody wants to get up off the couch. It's my biggest pet peeve when somebody says, yeah, but you shoot your bow every day. So can you? Like, no, man, I got a job I got to be at.
Right.
I got to be at a job, man. Me too. Like, I've got kids.
I work 12-hour shifts, man. I've been averaging 900 hours of overtime for the last 5 years to do this, and it's been tough. So I do the work on both ends. You know what I mean? And it's just, I don't know, man. I can't, I don't do a lot of stuff on social media. I'm not constantly posting pictures of myself tuning my bows or ripping arrows or skinning deer, but the work's getting done, man. Like I do the work. And to me, I like that's the fun part is getting that work done and then going out there and kind of putting it into practice and being successful. Like that's the juice, man. That's the good stuff.
Well, that's what, like, man, if you don't love that process, and you can apply the same thing in life. If you don't love the process and love the suckiness of it, like you're never going to be successful.
I agree.
And there's times,
I completely agree.
There's times where, I got to wake up at 5:30 if I want to shoot. There's times, I've got to stay out late and turn the porch light on if I want to shoot. Like, but that's what I want to be. That's what I want to be successful in, is shooting my bow. Listen, if you want to be successful in, whatever it is that you're prioritizing and saying, man, I wish I had time to hunt. Man, I wish I had time to shoot. Listen, you're prioritizing something. Like if it's money, if it's family time, if it's a new boat, if it's whatever, you're prioritizing something. So
100%.
Don't get mad at me because I'm prioritizing what I want to be successful in.
I agree. I do the same thing.
So, and that's just kind of where it's at. But so what's next for you, man? What do you got next? What's the next big world record you're going to smoke?
Let's see. Yeah, man. Let's see. I'm thinking about heading back to South Dakota in February, March. I want to get we're getting low on that bison meat, so it's time to re-up there. I want to get one with a recurve. So it'd probably be 4 or 5 days of me crawl around on my belly in South Dakota. So that's kind of up in the air. Next one that's firm is black bear, going to stick flingers again. Got a big group of guys going. That's going to be a blast. Sitka blacktail on Kodiak in November. Yeah, November. And then let's see. I think it's October. I've got woodland caribou at Ray's place. So the woodland is going to be a blast. Still is a Sitka, man. I've been wanting to get them to Homer Ocean Charters for a while. I've got 4 of the 5 deer, so I'm really wanting to close the book on the deer slam. And it's Alaska, man. Alaska's a blast. That place is just it's Alaska.
Yeah. What's your overall goal? Like, do you have the Super Slam in mind? Do you have, what's that end goal for you?
That's not, Super 10. That was always the goal. So one of each species. Right now I'm missing a caribou and a sheep. And, the sheep, that's going to have to be, the way the prices are getting, man, that's going to be a raffle or, something like that, because it's just, that dollar figure is probably gonna be out of my price range. So I'll probably be hung up at 9 for quite a while, as far as the Super 10 goes, but that's really it. I mean, obviously the Super Slam would be great. But I can't lay down 900 hours of overtime down, every year until I get this with prices keep going up. It's just, I'd never get there. So if I could put one of each species on the wall, that would be the goal. I'll get there eventually. I will make that happen, but it's definitely a long-term goal. That's not happening next season, but we'll keep chipping away. It's nothing I'm going to stop doing. Like it's in me now, like the gym's in me, and it's something that's going to be there for a while. So it's a work in progress, and and I like it that way. It's something that can never really, you can never really put a period on it. Like it's just something I can do and be into kind of indefinitely. So it's definitely something that's going to be around for a while.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I can't, once you get bit by the bug you've been bit by, like there's no going back, man. And that's what, I wish a lot of guys, and we've talked about taking the step into hunting, but like, I wish a lot of dudes would just try recurves for 1 year. Like just for 1 year, say no matter what, I'm going to hunt with this, because there's no going back from that, man. Like once you experience that, there's no going back. When you shoot a deer at 20 yards, 12 yards, 18 yards, like you just realize, man,
it's
this
different.
Is so much better. Yeah.
It's hard, and it's just their senses at that range are just magnified to the point where you have to be perfect. And if you're not getting that animal. And to me, that was what was the kind of, whoa, I didn't expect that at all. I mean, he literally heard my flannel at, 12 yards, that slight, whatever this made, and he heard it.
Yeah.
It's superhero stuff, man. Yeah, it was mutant stuff. I couldn't believe it.
I actually had this conversation with Chuck Adams in camp in Oklahoma. It's almost like deer sense movement. Like they don't hear anything, they don't see anything. I get their face completely away from you, and you move, but you don't make a noise. It's almost like they just sense that something just moved. Right. Like it's insane.
Yeah, they've got there's something going on. It's just anybody that tells you they got deer figured out is wrong. They do some of the weirdest stuff. The one deer I'm chasing, the closest I've been to him is 34 yards. And, he comes in with the winds. Everything's perfect. Scenario's perfect. Everything's just right. And, he's coming through this little pinch point, and I see him, his little running mate, he's got that one little guy that he has running point for him all the time. And I see this guy coming. I'm like, I know he's behind him. And, I look over and he's just over there, and he's just got some reason that he doesn't want to come to the pinch point that one day. I mean, everything about this scenario couldn't have been more perfect. The wind was perfect. It's just, and he just backed out and left. And it's like, what happened? Like, why did you, like, you've been doing this for the last 4 days. Like, why didn't you do it today? Like, what happened differently? And who knows? I mean, the area I'm hunting, 5 guys could have walked through that area, an hour before I got there, or could be sleeping in the bushes. So, it's really hard to say what could have gone wrong there. But in my mind, it was something I did. And there's something I've got to fix because he was right here, but stops. It's like, but they're weird, man. They're weird. They do weird stuff, and trying to figure them out is a ton of fun.
So do you do a lot of whitetail hunting? Like, do you travel around, hunt several states, or you just kind of hunt around the house for whitetails? And then
I don't. I hunt. Yeah, I hunt in the backyard. I save the out of town stuff for the, the bigger stuff. Because if I'm punching those tickets, I don't want it to be on something that I could do down the street. I want it to be. I want to leave to hunt caribou or to hunt, something else that I can't do, in Maryland or, in the parks or something like that.
I know sheep is, it's a big deal. It's expensive. It's a big investment. If you got to pick one of the sheep, what would it be? Like if you could go on any sheep hunt tomorrow, I'm paying. What are you picking?
I'd probably go to Martin's place in Mexico. I got a lot of buddies that go there. They've all had a lot of good success, a lot of good things to say. And plus a desert sheep, man, they got those chocolate antlers, like, chocolate horns, like they just have a good look to them, so that would probably be the one I'd go on.
See, I'm going stone sheep. I don't know why. I just think they're gorgeous animals. I love.
They are. They definitely are.
Yeah. Well,
if you're talking about anyone I could go on and just no expense, stone, obviously. But as far as like going for a sheep, like if I had to pick one that I'm spinning the coin on for success rate, desert sheep at Martin's place.
Yeah.
But as far as animal, yeah, you give me a late season stone.
If you were at convention, which you were, and you go around the trophy room, there was a bedded down full body stone killed by Remy Warren. And it was just like, to me, and we had other new world records. Like we had new world records in the place. We had, top 5 all times. And it's like, dude, just something about that stone sheep is like, God, look at it, dude. Like it's sexy.
I know. There were so many animals like that in there. I mean, that mule deer, he smacked you in the face the second you stepped foot in the door, and he was in the back corner. It's just like, that's a mule deer back there. But that place, I can't wait to go to a convention, in Arizona. That place was an absolute blast. Yeah, I can't wait.
Now, do you do a lot of shows? Like, am I going to see you at Western or at ATA or anything like that? Do you go to any shows?
Pope and Young was the first one I've been to, and I knew absolutely nobody there. It was, found up shaking hands with a bunch of guys.
It wasn't long until everybody was like, I got to get to know this guy. He's killing everything.
This guy's getting lucky. How can it rub off on me?
Yeah. Can I have your underwear? Like, what is it that makes you lucky, dude?
But it was a good time, man. I can't wait to go back. And, it'd obviously be nice to get on stage again, but I'm pretty sure
I've
had my opportunity there. Maybe.
Tells me
I'm keeping the fingers crossed, but
do you have any?
Gonna try.
I mentioned underwear. Do you have anything superstitious like that's making you kill all these animals?
Zero.
Me neither.
I just try to go as prepared as possible, man. I just show up.
But then you meet dudes who are like killing everything in sight, and they're like, dude, always my lucky draws. And I'm like, maybe I need some lucky draws.
Right.
Like, I don't know. Like, because
you're
doing something. I don't.
Right. No rabbit's feet or no Jobu. None of that stuff. Nothing.
Guys, if you want to hear the full story of Eric's world record Thule elk, it is on the Pope and Young website. You can go to the media page, hit the drop down menu, click news. The full story of his world record. What was the final score of that world record?
Oh, was it 336 and 1/8?
Wow. Good grief.
1/8, yeah.
Jiminy Christmas. Yeah. A beautiful
Looking at him right now, man, he is just unbelievable. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Yeah.
Where can they find you, Eric?
Where do they need to follow?
Where do they need to follow the Juggernaut at?
The Juggernaut's on Instagram. Just Eric Bethune on Facebook. And that's I don't do TikTok or YouTube or any of that kind of craziness. So very kind of
you guys are busy doing that.
Media.
He's busy killing world records.
Try to get another one knocked down here next year or something nice. But even if we don't, it's going to be a blast. I can't wait. Canada's going to be fun.
Yeah, man. Guys, there's one fabric that if you're not wearing, you absolutely should be. It's a magic fabric. It changes everything about the way you layer, everything about the way you dress, everything about the way you hunt, and that is merino wool. I couldn't even begin to tell you all of the benefits of merino wool, and I'm going to miss some for sure. But guys, whether it's summer or whether it's winter, this is going to keep you cool in the summer. It's moisture wicking. It's going to pull the moisture away from your body, but it's also going to hold your heat in the winter. It is antimicrobial. It doesn't smell. It doesn't hold scent like other fabrics does. So if you're out on a 5-day hunt, you don't have access to a washer, this is not going to hold your scent. It's not going to get stinky and nasty. It's also quick drying. You can hang this up in your tent. You can hang it up on a clothesline. It's going to dry really quick. But the coolest part about merino, in my opinion, is that when it gets wet, it still maintains its warmth properties. So if there's a light rain or a snow and this gets wet, it's still going to keep me warm. There's no itch. It's non-allergenic. It's an amazing fabric. Minus 33. I stumbled upon minus 33 by accident. I was on backcountry.com and they were having a blowout sale. I needed some new merino for a hunt that was coming up. And so I dove in, I bought it. And when I got it, it was the softest, best merino I have ever felt in my entire life. I've not worn anything but minus 33 socks for everyday life, whether I'm hunting, hiking, or just, out for the day. I haven't worn anything but minus 33 socks in over a year and a half. Every single day I'm wearing their underwear. Every single time I'm out hunting, whether it's 100 or whether it's 5, I'm wearing some sort of beanie to cover up my chrome dome and to keep that covered up and warm or cool, if it's in the summer. But also that UV protectant. I like to wear it in the summer. Guys, minus 33 does merino, in my opinion, better than anybody else does it. Go check out minus 33 for all your merino wool. And if you haven't ever tried merino, guys, you are missing out. It will change the way you layer. It will change the way you hunt. Go check out merino wool and go check out minus 33. I can't wait to have you back on after your next world record. But guys, thank you so much for listening. Y'all have a fantastic week.
We appreciate you, D. Thanks, buddy.